everyone. This is Sara Sach with Posh Pooch Designs. And today's video I'm going to be showing you how to make my new leaf jumper hat. Now I decided to call my new pattern release the leaf jumper hat because it reminds me of when I was a kid and I'd put on a warm hat because there was chill in the air. And we'd go out and help break up the leaves, and we'd put them in great big piles, and then we'd jump on them. Well, the hat that I'm wearing is made out of Red Heart Super Saver. It's their autumn or fall variegated colors. And then I made this one here out of Vanna's Choice. And it's just a brown with some cream colored fleck in it. And then I added the little cream colored leaf. Now this is a free crochet pattern on my blog, and I'll put that blog link right down in the notes so that you can go and check your stitch counts and things. What you're going to need to make the leaf jumper hat is about 3 ounces of any kind of worsted weight yarn. Now I didn't want to use this yarn for the demonstration because it's just too busy. And so I'm going to use this Vanna's Choice. It's a worsted weight number 4. It's called Barley. Brown with a little bit of white specks. I thought it would be perfect. So you'll need about 3 ounces of a worsted weight number 4 yarn. And we're going to be using our eye hook today. This is a 5.50 millimeter eye hook. You'll also need a needle for weaving in those ends. And of course, a pair of scissors. Now, you can use any worsted weight number 4 yarns for this hat, and you're going to find it's a really easy hat to make. Even though it has these little crosses in it, that's what makes it fun. To start our hat, of course, we're going to begin at the band, and the first thing that we need to do is make a slip knot. Next, we're going to chain 7. Oh, I got caught on a string there. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. There's my 7 chains. We're going to begin stitching half double crochets starting in the 2nd chain from the hook and stitch 1 half double crochet in each chain across. So we're going to yarn over. We're going to go in the 2nd chain and pull up a loop. We'll have those 3 loops on our hook. Yarn over and go through all 3 of those loops. That's a half double crochet. So now we'll place 1 half double crochet in each chain across. This is going to give us 6 half double crochets because we skipped that first chain and only stitched in the remaining 6. So here is my 6 half double crochets. We're going to chain 1, and the chain 1 does not count as a stitch. And now we're going to be stitching in the back loops only. And the way we do that is you'll see on top of here where we have, I call it the braid, but it's the chains going across. You'll see there is loops on this side and loops on this side. The front loops are the loops that are facing you. The back loops are the loops that are facing away. And we're going to be stitching only in the back loops. And we're still stitching half double crochets. Yarn over, we're only going to go in that back loop, pull a loop through, and finish our half double crochet all the way across. And this technique, by only stitching in the back loops, is what gives our hat its nice stretchy band. And that's why I say that the sizes that you do are approximates, because it's a nice stretchy band and you don't want to make it too big. All right, so you can see It made a little braid on the front and nothing on the back as far as the braiding. So we're going to continue this technique, chain 1 and turn and stitch 1/2 double crochet in each stitch across, only stitching in the back loops. Now the abbreviation for back loop only is BLO, and that just tells you that you're going to stitch only in the back loop of the top of that stitch. Okay, now make sure you're only stitching 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Because when you're moving back and forth when we're doing a long row, sometimes it's easy to add a stitch or subtract a stitch by mistake. We are going to continue stitching 1/2 double crochet, stitching only in the back loops of each stitch for 42 rows for the youth to adult size that measures about 18 to 20 inches. If you want to adjust the band to the size that you need, bigger or smaller, 2 rows equal approximately 1 inch. So you'll need to add or subtract 2 rows for every inch. Now this is a good place to pause the video because I'm going to go ahead and stitch my 42 rows for my band for my hat. And then when I finish those rows, I'll show you how to put the band together and start working on the body portion of our leaf jumper hat. I finished my 42 rows for my hat band. And now it's time to hook them together to form a circle. So I've got my crochet hook in the loop. I'm going to put the 2 ends together. We'll just leave that string there out of the way. I'm going to go in that first stitch, and this on this end, of course, is where we began chaining. Put my hook through there. I'm going to pull a loop through, snug that down a little bit. That first loop's a little big. There we go. Yarn over and go through both loops. What we're doing is we're single crocheting across. We're going to have 6 stitches going through both sides so that it closes the end of our band. So we'll go through, pull up a loop, yarn over, and go through both loops. Here's the third one. Make sure you get that last one. Sometimes they try to get away from us. Alright, so there's my 6 single crochets on the end of my row, and I'm going to chain 3. Let's open this up so you can see. And when you wear the hat, this of course is the back, but that single crochet stitching there almost blends in where you cannot see it. Alright, so what we're going to do to form the first row around our band, this chain 3 counts as 1 double crochet. And if you look at the band, you'll see there's space and ridges. Space, ridges, space, ridges, space, ridges all the way around. And so we have 1 double crochet here, and we're using that as the double crochet that's on that ridge. And what we're going to do is we're going to place 2 double crochets in this space before we reach that ridge. So yarn over, go through there, and stitch a double crochet. Yarn over and go right next to that one. yarn over, go through the first 2 loops, yarn over, go through the second 2 loops. So we stitched 2 double crochets before we got to this ridge. Now we're going to stitch 1 double crochet in the top of that ridge. And this is the way this row is stitched. 2 double crochets in the space before we get to the next ridge, and then 1 double crochet in the top of that ridge. 2 double crochets in the space before we reach that ridge, and then 1 double crochet in the top of that ridge. We'll do it again. 2 double crochets in that space before we reach the next ridge, and 1 double crochet in the ridge itself. Now, this might seem a little bit tricky, but if you look at the space, you can see there's a little bit of a hole here and a little bit of a hole here, and those are where you put those 2 double crochet stitches. And to put the stitch in the ridge, you just look at the top of the ridge and you can see that last braid at the top. Just slip your hook through that last braid and stitch a double crochet. Now this yarn that I chose, it's a Vanna's Choice, and I really like it. I like the colors, but it is a little bit splitty. Even though I think it's perfect colors for this particular hat. It seems I keep getting my hook stuck in a little bit of the strings. Alrighty, so just to make sure we understand how to do this row, go ahead and put my double crochet there. Alright, so let's do this one more time just to make sure we're understanding. In this space in here, this area, it's not really a space like a chain 2 space, it's just an area, we're going to stitch 2 double crochets. And then we're going to stitch 1 double crochet in the top of the ridge. 2 double crochets in the space or area before we reach the ridge. See there, it split on me again. There we go. And then 1 double crochet on the top of that ridge. And I wanted to do it that way because it gives us nice tight row of double crochets. A lot of times when we make a hat like this, we'll put 1 double crochet between and 1 on the ridge. And for this particular hat, I liked the idea of putting the 2 in there, especially since it's a half double crochet band opposed to a single crochet band. Alright, now this row is stitched the same whether you added or subtracted any rows to the original band. You're still, whether you made it bigger or smaller, going to stitch 2 double crochets between the ridge and 1 double crochet on the ridge. See how that makes a nice tight row in there? There's no spaces. Alright, well I'm about halfway. I'm going to continue to stitch around here, and then I'll show you how to join to the chain 3 and start the next row. I finished my double crochets all the way around my hat. I've got my double crochet in the top of my last ridge and then 2 double crochets, and then we have this ridge here. we're going to join to the top of that chain 3 with a slip stitch. Pull the loop through, then pull that loop through the loop that's on your hook and snug that down and chain 3. Now this next row is where we're going to begin the crossback row. And the way we stitch that is our chain 3 here counts as 1 double crochet. We're going to double crochet in the next double crochet. There's 2 double crochets because the chain 3 counted as our first one. So we're going to yarn over, and then we're going to bring our hook back and go in that top of that double crochet that was before that chain, pull a loop through, and then finish our double crochet. And then you can see that we crossed over, and now we're going to move back to the front of our row where we're doing our double crochet. So we're going to skip the next double crochet, and then we're going to double crochet in the next 2. There we go. 1 and 2. We'll yarn over and we'll go back and cross back and stitch in that double crochet that we skipped. Okay, and you can see that there's a cross there. All right, and this is how this row is going to work. It's a little awkward at first, but don't give up. You're going to find you love this stitch. All right, so here's where we stitch that last stitch, that last double crochet. We're going to skip the next double crochet and make 2 double crochets, 1 in each of the next 2 stitches. And then again, we're going to make that double crochet in that double crochet that we skipped. There we go. All right, let's keep going. Here's one we're going to skip. We're going to stitch 1 double crochet in the next 2 stitches. Then we're going to go back and make a double crochet in that double crochet that we skipped. And you may have to twist your work just a little bit, but you'll see it makes beautiful texture stitch. All right, so here's where we stitched our last double crochet. So we're going to skip this next one and double crochet in the next 2. 1 and 2. Again, yarn over. And to keep it from slipping off your hook, I kind of push it down a little bit on the hook, and then I have room to twist it to go back and get that spot that we skipped. All right, so here's where we stitched. Here's the one we're skipping. 1 double crochet in the next 2. There's 1. 2. Yarn over. You can hold that with your finger if you want to, like that. And we go back and make a double crochet in that stitch that we skipped. Isn't that nice? It makes a nice textured stitch. All right, so let's keep going around. Here's 1 double crochet, 2 double crochets. Now we'll go back and double crochet in the double crochet that we skipped. All right, well, let's continue our row around, and then when we get back around to the beginning, I'll show you how to join so that it keeps the X's or the crosses going on your project. I finished my row of the cross stitches around, and I want to show you how to join back. So the last stitches, let me pull this out. Here's a cross stitch that we did. We skipped and then we did the 2 double crochets. We're going to go ahead and cross back and make that cross back double crochet. And then we need to join. Well, if you look, here's the first stitch that we made where we made the 2 double crochets and we cross back this way to make that cross back and then continued on. So we don't want to join to this portion. We want to join to the first double crochet up here, and it's actually the first chain 3 that counts as a double crochet. So I want to make sure we join there, not on the cross. Put our hook through, pull the loop through, and pull that loop through the loop that's on our hook. And that's how you do it in order to keep from having any sort of issue with a mess up in stitches. Let's go ahead and chain 3. So this next row, super duper easy. We're just going to place 1 double crochet in each double crochet around. And the best way to do this without getting confused is to watch along the top edge of your stitches, because our chain 3 counted as our first double crochet. Now we're going to double crochet in this next double crochet. Our chain 3 is our first double crochet. Then we double crocheted in the second double crochet. Our next double crochet we're going to do in the top of our stitch that we crossed over. And it's very important that you watch these stitches. If you look along the top, you just put 1 double crochet in the top of each double crochet around. And the reason this is important is you don't want to add or subtract any stitches by accident, because we're going to be alternating a double crochet row with a double crochet cross stitch row. And so it's real important that we keep our stitches straight. See how this is looking? We've got a row of double crochet, a row of our cross stitch stitches, and then another row of double crochet. And we'll keep going around, stitching 1 double crochet in each double crochet around. Once we get this row stitched, we'll stitch all the way around, and then we'll join back to the top of this chain 3. I finished my row of double crochet around, and now we're going to do another row of the cross stitch. So we'll do it exactly the same. Chain 3, 1 double crochet in the next stitch. Then we're going to yarn over, cross back to that double crochet that's before the chain, and stitch our double crochet. Then we'll move back over here, we'll skip the next stitch and double crochet in the next 2 double crochets. Then we'll yarn over and cross back and put a double crochet in that stitch that we skipped. And we're doing this exactly the same as we did this row. Here's one we stitched in. We're skipping this one, and then we're going to double crochet in the next 2 double crochets. Then we double crochet and stitch it right in that stitch that we skipped. So it's stitched, like I said, exactly like the cross stitch row that we did. And we'll do it exactly the same. We'll stitch all the way around and we'll join exactly the same as we did on this row. Your count will be exactly the same if you put the right amount of stitches on your double crochet row. And that's why getting that row right was very important. I finished this second cross stitch row. And I'm going to show you again how to join, just in case you got confused or don't remember. So we did our last 2 double crochets and our crossover, and now we're going to join not to the crossover but to the chain 3 that's behind there with a slip stitch. That way it fits right in with how the crossovers are laying. The next row that we're going to do is going to be exactly like this row in here. We're going to stitch 1 double crochet in each double crochet around. So let's chain 3. Counts as our first double crochet. Then we're going to double crochet in the next stitch and in each stitch across. And remember, the best way to keep from getting off count is to follow the chains, or the stitches I should say. They're the chains that are sitting on top of the stitches, and put each double crochet in each one of those. If you try to follow it on the front just by looking with the cross stitches, it can be a little bit confusing. So if you just follow each stitch that you made across the top, it makes it a lot easier. So I'm going to continue on making 1 double crochet stitch in each stitch around my hat until I reach back to that first chain 3, and then I'll join. For the next 4 rows of the hat, we're going to stitch them exactly like the last 2. We'll repeat a row of the cross stitches, a row of the double crochets, another row of cross stitches, and another row of double crochets. So basically these 4 rows that we did, 1, 2, 3, 4, we're going to repeat those again. So we'll do a row of cross stitch, a row of double crochet, a row of cross stitch, and a row of double crochet. And then we'll begin the decrease to make the top of the hat. I finished my 4 additional rows. Cross stitch row, double crochet row, cross stitch row, double crochet row. If you want to make this hat into a slouchy, you can repeat those 2 rows for a couple more rows just to make it a little bit longer if you want to. Now it's time to begin the decrease rows. So I've joined, of course, and now I'm going to chain 3. And then we're going to stitch 2 double crochets together, working all the way around the hat. And the way we do that, yarn over, go in the next stitch and pull up a loop. Then we go in the next stitch and pull up a loop. You're going to have 4 loops on your hook instead of the traditional 3 for a double crochet, because we're doing a double crochet decrease, or stitching 2 double crochets together. We're going to yarn over and go through the first 3 loops, yarn over and go through the next 2. And by doing that, we made 2 double crochets into 1. So we decreased by 1. And we're going to work this all the way around the hat. So yarn over, we'll go in the next double crochet, we'll go in the next double crochet for those 4 loops, yarn over, go through the first 3, yarn over, and go through the 2. And by doing this, we're going to be bringing the edge of the hat in so that we start getting the form of the top of the head. And you can see how that's already starting to pull in some. Let's keep going, continuing to make our double crochet decreases, or sometimes called stitching 2 double crochets together. Some designers call it one thing and other designers call it another. All right, let's take a look at it, and you can see how it's already pulling in to form the top or the crown of the hat. So just in case, I want to make sure you understand how to do the decreases. You yarn over, go through and pull up a loop, go through the next double crochet and pull up a loop, 4 loops on your hook, yarn over, go through 3, yarn over, and go through the 2. And we'll do this all the way around the hat for this row. I finished this row of decrease stitches. Now I'm going to join to the top of the chain 3 with a slip stitch, and I'm going to chain 3. Now this next row, we're just going to be stitching 1 double crochet in each double crochet around. No decreases on this row, just 1 double crochet in each double crochet around. And then when we get back around to where we started, we'll join to the top of our chain 3. And again, you can already see where the hat is going in and forming the crown of the hat. So 1 double crochet in each double crochet around. So you can see that I have done 1 double crochet in each of the stitches around, and now I'm going to join to the top of our chain 3 and chain 3. You can see how the hat has come in and starting to form the crown of the head, and it's looking really good. Now this next row, we're going to chain our 3, and then we're again going to stitch 2 double crochets together or double crochet decrease. So we'll yarn over, we'll go in the next double crochet, pull up a loop, go in the next double crochet, pull up a loop, go through those 3, and then the last 2. And we'll do this all the way around, and of course it won't take very long because our hat's getting smaller and smaller at the top. So we are stitching 2 double crochets together or double crochet decreases. our hole is getting smaller and smaller in the top of our hat. There we go. Just a few more to go. There we go. There we go. Just tinier and tinier, closer together. All right, the last two stitch together. We're going to join to the top of our chain 3. There we go. And now you can see our hole is very small, but we do need to close it up. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut off our yarn, leaving ourselves a good amount of tail. And we'll go ahead and pull that, snug it down, and then we're going to turn our hat wrong side out and pull that tail through. So now that we have our hat wrong side out, we're going to thread that long tail onto our needle. And we're going to gather the hat closed. And we'll do that by going in and out of those stitches that we just stitched. And then once we get back around here where we started, we'll gently pull on that, closing up that hole. And I try to make sure that there isn't any gap or hole there. I pull it snug, but not so snug I'm going to break the yarn. And then I'll just make a couple of stitches. That's going to hold it. Another one. Go through that yarn. Nice and snug. And then I'll just make some stitches going across, just to make sure that the whole of my hat is not going to open up. And the last thing that I do is I make this big loop, and then I have this string here, and I put them all together, and I tie what I call is a whip knot. I don't know what it's called, a loop knot, just to pull everything through, snug that down, and clip it. So here is my finished leaf jumper hat, and I think it looks lovely. Here's the other one that we did. But the thing about this one is it looks a little bit plain without a leaf. So I made an off-white leaf to go with this style. And this leaf pattern is called the Autumn Leaf Brooch. And I'll put that link there up in the corner so that you can go and get that pattern for that leaf. So I took a piece of matching yarn and I threaded it on my needle. Now, even though this is a brooch pattern, I'm not going to pin it on, I'm going to sew it. So I've got my leaf where I want to put it, right there on the side. And I'm just going to go up from underneath and come through right there around the circle of the leaf. And I don't want my leaf to be sewn completely down, so I'm just going to stitch around that circle until I'm satisfied that the leaf is going to stay on my hat without coming off. I like the idea of it kind of poking up though. I don't want it flat. There we go. And I'll just keep going around that circle till I've used up all my yarn. There we go. I think it's going to stay put now, and I kind of like it kind of floppy. So I'm going to go underneath here, And I'm going to go ahead and take those two ends and do another no-no and tie those in a knot. I don't want those two going anywhere. There we go. Those strings are gone. And there's my leaf jumper hat all finished with a nice leaf that's kind of curly and floofy, and I like that a lot.